can guarantee you that deception is a nasty thing. And I think one of the reasons people get deceived is because they lack knowledge. And they need to understand that the more information you have, the better decisions you can make. The Bible says, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge." Listen, my friend.
This is what we know. According to the book of Ephesians, which was a church started by the Apostle Paul, God promised to give pastors and teachers to help the church grow. And they're there right from the beginning. Men that are associated to the apostles, like Clement of Rome, who pastored the church in Romans 16, ordained there by Peter. That's a fact of history. It's established history. And then we have these 7 churches mentioned in the book of Revelation. And look at Smyrna and Ephesus there. It's important because history tells us clearly Paul was in Ephesus, and so was the Apostle John after he was imprisoned for being a Christian on the island of Patmos. Do you see Smyrna there? Well, there you go. Smyrna was the church that Polycarp pastored. He was a convert of the Apostle John, and he pastored a church just up the road. That's what we know from history, and then some. We have it as eyewitness account that Paul went to Rome long before Peter, and the majority of all the scholars, including atheists, will tell you Paul, in fact, did write the book of Romans. But you know what I like? Is the Papias. Look at him way down at the bottom there. Yes, sirree. Papias, the ancient man. He was described as the ancient man by Polycrates, and he pastored a church up north, not far from Ephesus, where John had a church. In Papias's exposition, he wrote a 5-volume set, but fragments remain, and out of the fragments we get this information. Listen carefully. The expositions. Look what Papias does in the present tense. John the Elder. He says this, "And I wanted whatever Ariston and John the Elder, the Lord's disciples, were saying. For I did not think that the information from books would profit me as much as the information from a living and surviving voice." There it is. John is called an elder, and Papias says he heard, in the present tense, his surviving voice. The very fact that Papias says, "I want to hear the voice and not information that wouldn't profit him from books," is because Paul warns of letters fraudulently labeled at the name of the apostles. My friend, Papias is a witness to the Apostle John personally, the ancient man. Papias informs us that he heard the surviving voice of John, and it has always been Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. There are no other candidates. And Papias calls him an elder. Listen, John is described as an elder in 1 John, and this is called the traditional position held by the majority of all the scholars in the world for 1800 years. Great scholars, numbering hundreds of thousands, accept this position. Now let's talk about Polycarp, the personal convert of John the Apostle. They were friends. And we have Irenaeus at the bottom, a personal pupil and disciple of Polycarp. He pastored a church in Lyon near France. And my friend, listen very carefully as he brings us a 5-volume encyclopedia, bringing us 1st and 2nd century Christianity. And we still have it. You can read it online. And he describes for us the coming ins and outs of John the Apostle at the mouth of Polycarp on several occasions. And then there's a letter to Florinus, the pastor of Rome, substantiating and corroborating the fact, again, in another second piece of evidence that Irenaeus heard Polycarp talk about the apostles. Great information. And Irenaeus knows Polycarp, Polycarp knows John, John knows Jesus, and do you know Jesus? That's the whole question here. Now those were the last words of Jesus on the cross before he died. It is finished. And the thief on the cross made it to heaven because he believed that Jesus could save him and take him there. He admitted he deserved to die there, and he believed Jesus could save him, and Jesus did. He told him, "Today you'll be with me in paradise." Ask Jesus to save you today. He will. Another Kai Little Guy film.